Look at me. You know, I retired from Goldsmiths 2.5 years ago. Took my lump sum and my pension, and my pension lost 30% of its value in the first 2 months with the devaluation of the pound. And I don't live in Britain; I live, in France. Since then, I've had to become more or less a currency trader just to juggle, because I mean, when you get 0% interest on savings, if you have any assets at all, the real big movements are in currencies. I mean, I've made actually, I think I do quite well at it. And I have, a whole when I set out as a university lecturer, I worked for The Economist. I moonlighted for The Economist, writing reports on West Africa. I worked for the World Bank, wrote the independence, the development program for Papua New Guinea's independence for the World Bank. I've always gone in for pluri activity. Maybe I'm a bit unusual for an academic. I don't know, probably. But the fact is that everyone at any level relies on quite a... I mean, what is illusory, I think. One of my favorite pieces is, Pig Earth by John Berger. He has he says, the bourgeoisie, the Western middle classes say peasants are backward and stagnant and rigid and conservative. He said, ain't nobody more conservative than the bourgeoisie. He said, who thought of this idea of going to the top of a mountain, building a wall, keeping everything out, and kind of running your economic affairs from the city, and trying to make. I mean, I learned from my field work inside. I wouldn't claim to be middle class, at least not in origin. But when I went out, I used to ask people questions in the slums of Accra, like, how much do you spend on meat a week? And they would look at me and say, what do you mean, I get this pathetic pittance and it's gone within days, and then I have to bum off my friends, or, but what is this thing about, budgeting and organizing, making sure that my pension is going to be there in 5 years' time? Are you kidding? That's not the way the world is for most people. So anyway, this is the background. So the basic notion then is that whatever we're going to call the human economy, it has to be grounded in what people really do, and not to be driven by some imposed notion and reduced notion of what we think they ought to be doing. So why then is this a human economy? I have 5 reasons. First of all, I think, by the way, I'm sure you all caught it, I wrote a piece in The Big Issue recently. It was they have a column called King for a Day. What would you do if you were king for a day? 330 words. So I said, what I would do, was I'd make sure that the economics gets taught in schools, because one of the things that we do with our kids is we keep them away from money as long as possible, and infantilize them, turn everything that we do for them into a gift, and try to, and even if they go out and get a job, we don't think of it as being part of the true economy of the home. Is something they can spend on. But I said, but the thing is, if they're going to learn about money economy in school, it's got to be something they can use. It's got to be related to life as they experience it. So the first notion of human economy is that we need a pragmatic economics that people can understand and apply in their lives. It's quite a tall order, but that's where we should be aiming if we want people not to be the victims of economic systems they don't understand. The second is, and I've said it already, the economy is made and remade by human beings, and we just have to keep saying that. This is, cue in the anthropologists. Okay, that's for sure. The third thing, which I think cues in Mose and Polanyi, as well as a lot of others, is that approaching economy as an abstraction or set of abstractions should be replaced by focusing on the complex particulars, the institutional particulars that people live by. I mean, the kind of things that I mentioned for Linde, really. The whatever, you know, so in other words, that strand of, I mean, we have to engage with economy at a level that is similar to the way people encounter it themselves, which means, I mean, it's what British social anthropology was great for. I mean, it's why they borrow from the comparative jurisprudence, you know, the Maitlands and the Mains, because these people insisted that if you live your life through kinship and through local associations and so on and so forth, then there is this incredible concrete variety of the ways in which kinship and marriage are organized on the ground. And if we want to understand their societies, we need to, you know, engage with that. And all that stuff is gone. I mean, people say, what? You mean patrilineal cross-cousin marriage? Forget it. I don't want to know about that. Give me gender, ethnicity, informal economy, whatever. But not, you know, having to engage with the concrete specificity of how people's social lives are organized. The next point, of course, is that the idea of needs and interests as articulated by conventional economics are incredibly narrow, and they need to be broadened. We need a much more holistic conception of what everybody's needs and interests are, and they can't be limited in the way they normally are. But finally, and this is the most important and the most difficult reason for me for talking about a human economy, is that we're now living in a world where world economy is a reality to a degree that it has never been before. I mean, you can point to the genealogy of this situation, but I mean, we've never before had means of communication that are as universal as they are now, and capable of giving concrete universality to abstract universal ideas. We've never been interdependent to this degree before, and it's going to get more so. So we need to address humanity as a whole. I mean, this is the challenge of anthropology that ethnography dropped, basically. The ethnography gave us what people do, really, in all its great, magnificent local specificity, but they dropped the ball on what the hell is going on with humanity as a whole. And most contemporary anthropologists who claim to be social, cultural, whatever, have dropped it. And there was a time in the 60s and 70s where a few people you know, took up Marxism or some ecological speculation or whatever, and tried to push the boat out towards a more inclusive historical anthropology. And people like Jack Goody and Eric Wolf have obviously, you know, did so rather spectacularly well. But I think this is not, I'm speaking because most of you people are anthropologists, but to a level that allows us to address the predicament of humanity as a whole, somehow. And that's what anthropology was supposed to be about, and but not just anthropology. So I'll leave it at that.